What does it mean to say, I am? Is consciousness an accident of biology? Or is it the fabric of the universe? On Spinning the Light, we bridge the gap between ancient wisdom and modern inquiry. We're stripping away the illusions of the ego to find the radiant core of human existence. Join us, your hosts, Christy and Sharon, as we unravel the mysteries of the mind and illuminate the true nature of being. This is Spinning the Light.
Hello, and welcome back.
Here we are.
Yeah, just loving what we do. All kidding aside, I am really loving the way the podcast is going, and just, I don't know about for the audience, but I know it's doing something for me.
Yeah.
So anyway, last week we were talking about the different levels of consciousness and the different levels of our brainwaves, the beta and all those. So today we want to continue on this, but now we're going to be talking about some things we can do to maybe tap into some of these in a way that we want to make it simplistic, not too complicated. So some of the terminology might sound more complicated than it is because we're going to break all that down anyway. So yeah.
Kind of get underneath and really take a look at how these levels work.
Exactly. Because they're deep.
So, connecting with those inner layers, our connection to the deeper consciousness isn't about forcing our way in. To connect with the deeper level, we must slow down the conscious mind so we can allow the unfolding of the deeper layers, allowing them to come to the surface. The deeper mind communicates through feelings, images, and rhythm.
And I think that's what's really important, because I think we've been taught to force through our thought. Think it through. You think everything through. But the problem is that when we're talking about those layers, thought is not a part of it at all. We actually have to slow down and stop thought in order to listen and to truly hear.
Exactly.
It's a little bit different.
The absence of that thinking mind that actually allows those things to come through.
But that's the forcing piece that we're talking about here. When we try to force that through thought. Well, if I think this enough, if I think I'm in this consciousness or whatever.
What am I supposed to be experiencing here? I'm overthinking
it. I do that every once in a while still.
And we often attempt to use old tools that maybe we've outgrown and they don't work for us anymore. And the reason being that we're not the same today as we were back then. We're not the same person, and we're still trying to use those old, outdated tools.
And as we evolve, we keep the tools. We don't throw them away, but we may have to modify the tool.
Exactly.
And when we modify the tool, it means that we then look and say, why didn't that work? Oh my God, because I'm not that same person.
Yeah.
But also what we try to do is use the same tool to create the same feeling, but you're trying to create the same feeling for the person in the past.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's not working. Something's wrong with it, or something's wrong with me. No, it means you've had growth.
Yeah, that's a really good thing.
And because you had that growth, what new tool might we use? Somebody most to me said, well, the breathing doesn't work. I said, because you're not focused on the breathing. I said, what are you doing instead? Well, I'm trying to figure out why the breathing isn't working.
Exactly. We're overthinking it again. So to connect, as we mentioned, we have to get out of the hyper-focused beta brain waves that keep us so focused on the analytical. The goal should be to drop into alpha wave, relaxed, and reflective, or theta wave, where we're in a deep meditative type state.
Once again, it goes to that place where when you're driving, say, to somewhere that's very familiar to you, and you get there and you think, holy crap, how did I get here? I don't remember it all, because you were not in conscious thought. You went into a deeper, relaxed state maybe. And you might even ask yourself, I don't remember thinking anything or anything. And sometimes that happens, and it can be scary too. We don't want to do that when we're driving. But I have not, most people will say, I've had that experience at least once. It does not happen often with us. Sorry about that. It does not happen often with us because we know to stay into conscious thought. But our subconscious is the direction, it's the driver.
Mm-hmm.
It gets us from point A to point B.
Yeah.
And it's doing all the things. It's looking, it's being aware, but we're not in a conscious state at all.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, it's almost alarming sometimes when you arrive and you're like, oh, how did I get here? So assessing these states, the easiest way to assess these states is in the first 10 minutes after waking up or the last 10 minutes before you're falling asleep. The brain naturally transitions through these states at that time, making it highly receptive to intention, reflection, and visualization.
And I think that we talk about that, when you wake up, what is that? Allowing that 10 minutes. And so much of the time people are into picking up the phone or jumping up and getting ready for the day and not taking that time. And sometimes if you just take that 10 minutes, if you don't have 10, 5, but 10 it's within that 10-minute time period we're talking about, to just sit down and have an intention. And an intention is sometimes just a word: gratitude, hope, love.
Yeah.
It could be prosperity. It could be health. Any of those things is one word, and then you let it go. And then you just kind of sit there.
Yeah, just sit with it and feel the feeling of it. And it is really helpful to do that, especially in the morning when you're first waking up before you do anything else. You're just kind of laying there with your eyes shut and you just have those reflective moments. And that really is about setting that intention.
And also, it's a really good time to just pay attention to your breath. Have gratitude for your first breath, that first awareness of breath that you have. Those are some simple things we can do that can bring about a lot of change.
Exactly. That goes right into mindfulness and meditation. This opens a doorway to clarity. We don't have to sit for hours to make this happen. We can do short, focused pauses, sitting even for 2 to 5 minutes, doing intentional deep breathing can break the constant loop of conscious thinking, focusing on your breath or a single concept like gratitude.
And, I think that so much of the time, and mindfulness can be, if you're looking out the window at nature, be mindful of the tree in front of you, the flower in front of you. So mindfulness can incorporate color. It can incorporate texture. It's just to be present.
Mm-hmm. Texture for sure. I think like when we have done the exercise where you take a rock or something like that and you're holding that in your hand and your focus is on that, how it feels. I mean, it takes your mind away from all of the other thinking.
Exactly.
Yeah. Somatic awareness. The unconscious mind is deeply tied to the physical body. When you experience stress, anxiety, or unexplained shifts in mood, it often shows up physically before it manifests as conscious thought. We can learn to recognize these early indicators if we sharpen our awareness by creating a practice to help us identify the signs. Sit quietly and scan your body. Notice any tightness in the chest, a knot in the stomach, or tension in the shoulders. No need to try and fix it, just observe it. Ask yourself, what is this tension trying to tell me? When we do this, often the deeper self will often offer up more insight.
And it's really interesting because one of the things I do with some of my clients is, and now they're so good at it, it amazes me. It just fills my heart when I see it. But I had one, and she was diagnosed with IBS. Okay. And I said, well, let's look at, what do you feel first? I said, before you actually have the symptomology for the IBS, there's something else that goes on. And what is it about? Well, hers was anxiety. Mm-hmm. So what she did is she identified, oh, wait a minute, I start to have this little tinge. And she said, now she can identify it And then once she realizes she has control, basically, of the anxiety, that subconscious is creating the anxiety or for whatever that situation is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it happens, she identifies it and she's able to move away from it
Right.
because she is so aware of her body now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I help my clients understand, be aware of your body. Your body is giving you so many signals prior to the thought.
Exactly. And we're not paying attention so much of the time. But we've talked about that, how that the body really does give you these initial indicators before the thought is even there.
2 episodes ago or whatever, we talked about how much the heart sends a signal.
Yeah.
How many, so all our body is sending signals all the time, but we are so stuck and been so conditioned that it's all up in here. It's a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
The subconscious is already activated in those situations and it already sends the message because remember, it's that ingrained thing, that pattern. And so therefore that becomes the thing. But the more awareness you have of what your body is telling you, the more control and power you're going to have over you.
Yeah. Over your responses to things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So there's things that you can do, like dream tracking and free writing. These can be useful tools because the analytical mind is offline during sleep. Your dreams are the unedited language of the unconscious. You could keep a dream journal next to your bed, write down fragments, emotions, or symbols you remember, or try free writing for 10 minutes a day. Let whatever wants to come out hit the page without editing or stopping or worrying about grammar, and just see what comes to the surface.
You know, I always think dreams are very fascinating to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had a few clients and they'll tell me, I don't understand why I'm dreaming the same thing. And they're usually nightmares because they're related to PTSD and stuff. And so this one was telling me, and I said, I finally figured it out. I said, the dream is trying to give you a message. And he goes, well, what's the message? I said, you're going to continue to have nightmares because you're trying to fix something that is not yours to fix.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, what? I said, that's why it's the same thing. So it was the same thing over and over and over again. But it couldn't ever come to an end. It couldn't. And I said, our dreams try to give us messages. I said, and we have to pause long enough. And if we have a dream that is repetitive, we have to pause and say, sometimes we think, oh, what's giving us, sometimes it's opposite of that.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, it's not telling him, oh, you have to be the rescuer, or you have to be, what it was telling him was, you're trying to fix something from your past. And the reason you can't fix it, it was never your mistake in the first place.
Wow.
As soon as that, it was like, what? As soon as he was able to see that, the nightmare stopped.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because it takes unburying these things to be able to recognize them. I mean, they are very much happening in the subconscious. And it's fascinating, too, to go and look up different things about when certain things show up in dreams repeatedly. I know I've done that in the past. I've talked to you about how I'll dream quite often about a lion being somewhere in the dream, and it's so interesting because it's not like it's being aggressive or ferocious in any way, but it's just there, and it scares me so much. Even though I'm not even having to defend myself or anything, it's just there. So it's interesting when you go and you really look at those things and what they really mean. And
because sometimes we have to change the definition of the lion.
mm,
Sometimes it's not something fearful. Sometimes it's protecting.
well, and I think we talked about that. Maybe it's an unrealistic fear or something like that that's showing up. It's present there and it's not really coming at me, but it's scaring me still.
Yeah, because we put the definition or whatever. I think the other thing is sometimes a really good thing is to talk to somebody about a dream.
Yeah.
So this client, he's had these dreams forever. And I'm there like, dude, didn't you talk to your other therapist and stuff? He goes, they never asked. They would just say, I would just say I have nightmares. And then he would say, well, let's figure out how do you not have nightmare, whatever. And he goes, but nobody ever asked. He goes, you always just kept asking, tell me this dream, tell me this dream. And I found the running theme in it. But talk about it. And sometimes even in talking about it, you get the answer to it.
Exactly.
So
clarity.
Just pay attention to that intuitive thing that it's telling you.
Connecting with your deeper consciousness is a practice of active listening. The more quiet you create, the louder your inner consciousness speaks.
Once again, just like I said, when we pay attention, and I cannot pay attention to what's going on in me internally when I have all this chatter going on up here. This chatter is louder. And I think sometimes too, when people have those moments where the chatter slows down and stops, it scares them. And some people will tell me, I've always had the chatter.
I don't know who I am without that.
That was exactly, well, who am I without it?
All right.
Well, I don't know. Well, let's find out, you know? But that's what it is. It's the fear and it's the, oh my God, if I don't have the chatter, am I going to feel lonely? Like all of these things, there's like 900 things that go on. But I think what it really becomes is slow it down. And sometimes maybe it is scary because sometimes I think it's not even that. It's doing it without judgment, meaning don't feel dumb or stupid because, oh, shoot, that's the answer. Well, I should have known that. No, we can't know what we don't know. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's all about learning.
Yeah. So it's being kind to ourselves, showing ourselves a little bit of grace, understanding that we are going to make mistakes along the way. And sometimes we're going to miss little things. But I'm going to be less likely to miss those little things if I slow everything down.
Exactly. So reprogramming. The subconscious mind is like a supercomputer running on old software. These are old beliefs that were installed during childhood. The subconscious mind learns through repetition and highly emotional experiences. To change this, we must be consistent and deliberate in our approach. You cannot rewrite a pattern until you have identified it.
And this is what's really interesting in this. The greater my emotional response is to a situation, the more ingrained it becomes in my subconscious. And that's huge. And you have to ask. And so part of the thing of identifying that is, what was my emotional response? Because you know what? You're good. Oh, it's like I'm having right now because we carry the emotional response. An emotional response to something we see, observe, are a part of, whatever, ingrains it even deeper. And then so it's like, oh, geez, what was that about? And I know I'll have those where they're like, what's this about? And I mean, and I know we were having a conversation one day. You said something. It wasn't even, it was just in the conversation, but I felt my mood immediately change. This was months and months ago, but I felt my mood immediately change, and you felt it change with you. And then I'm all in this grumpy kind of mood, and you're confused. Why are you? And so I had to get on work. So I get on work, and as I'm working and stuff like that, and then it was in that in between time between my two clients that I slowed everything down. And I was there like, oh, and I went to you right away and I said, oh my God, this is so cool. Because when you said that, it triggered me from this. But if I hadn't slowed down, I wouldn't have been able to identify that. So these things happen that fast. It's not like it's quick because that subconscious has stored it all. And once again, it's stuck on that old programming. But as soon as I acknowledged it, now she can say that, I'm not going to have the same emotional response.
Yep, it takes the power out of it. So what you're talking about is tracing the software. The subconscious mind doesn't think in words. It's important to understand that. It hides behind your automatic reactions. That's why it happens so quickly. So you're having these conversations and all of a sudden you're just in fight mode because something somebody has said. You just go to that place.
And what's really interesting, even in that, is that when you have that, somebody's talking and you get triggered and you have that emotional thing, and then you go to the other person and say, well, just don't say those things. I now have moved the responsibility from me to somebody else. And I hear this often. Well, don't do that anymore. Don't use those words. Don't do this. Don't do that. And I'm going to be okay. Well, guess what? We can't tell everybody in the whole world, don't use those words. Don't do that. We can't. So it becomes when we are able to do the rewriting of this programming and get off that script. But the only way we do it is when I identify this my trigger. Where did it come from? And it's no longer valued. It doesn't have the same value that it did because I'm no longer that same person. Then we get to rewrite that software.
Yep. So there's two techniques that we're talking about here in identifying these patterns. Triggers as teacher method. Your strongest emotional triggers are a direct roadmap to your subconscious blocks. You'll know when you experience a sudden spike of anger, anxiety, shame, or defensiveness. You hit an old wound buried in the subconscious. So the practice, the moment you feel triggered, hit the pause. Instead of focusing on the external person or situation, trace the feeling inward. Ask yourself, when is the very first time I remember feeling this exact way? Often, an image or memory from childhood will flash in your mind. That memory is the origin point of this belief.
But real quickly, if you do that and you don't get an image from childhood, remember, it could be something from a year ago or 2 years. So not everything is going to be tied back into childhood.
Right.
A lot is, but it's a repeated pattern.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's the repetition of that pattern that created it over time.
Yes. So it may not be childhood because once again, the brain goes into this. Here's this, okay, it's something in childhood. No, it's followed the pattern.
Right.
Where did I experience this? In identifying it, because we're talking about subconscious now, so it's a little bit different. In the subconscious, identifying it is important because you have to identify, and the subconscious goes, oh, here it is. Okay?
Yeah.
But remember, the subconscious also wants to keep things as they are because it's a pattern.
Yeah.
Remember, we as humans love patterns. Our brain loves pattern. Our subconscious love pattern. We love patterns. I don't know if we love them, but we've been taught them.
Well, yeah. And it's just like auto. We just go to it.
Absolutely.
So another technique is radical pattern auditing. Look at the areas of your life where you feel stuck or where the same frustrating scenario keeps repeating. For example, the same relationship dynamic, hitting a financial ceiling, or self-sabotaging. The practice, write down the reoccurring frustration and then complete this sentence without thinking or even filtering. If I get what I want, what's the worst thing that might happen? In doing this, you'll identify where your self-sabotaging fears lie. For example, say if it was a business and it became wildly successful, I'd have no time for myself. So even in the things that we are endeavoring to be successful and want it to be wonderful and we envision it and everything like that, we can still have those kinds of thoughts that hold us back.
And inadvertently, what happens is that thought, I won't have any time. The subconscious goes, gets scared. I like my time. So therefore, I'm going to create the sabotage for the success of the business.
Whether that looks like procrastination or whatever it is, I'm not getting my stuff done.
And it's like in relationships, it's like pattern. You keep getting the same deadbeat or whatever. Well, and I'll ask, what do you think if you have this wonderful relationship? I'm just going to mess it up. Yeah. Because the person's been conditioned in these other relationships that they're the problem.
Yeah.
And I'll ask him, let me ask you something. What were some of the common denominators in these relationships? Well, the man didn't work. Oh, but then you became the failure. Do you see what I mean? So identifying those things. And sometimes it kind of sucks because you're there like, man, why do I have to do this work? They did it. No. It may have been their behavior, but you took it on as somehow you did not succeed in these areas. We talk about that often. We get in our own way.
Oh, yeah.
I think when we're doing the podcast and stuff, because we really want it to be successful, but we also really like our time. There's certain things. So, and we talked about this and we talk about it almost weekly. I feel like where they're like, we got to stop getting in our own way because we put out there that we want followers. We want to build this community. It's so important to us to build this community.
Yeah.
And that means it takes time, it takes energy, it takes this effort, and we're doing it. And then we'll be there like, but I really want it. No, it's a matter of committing and realizing that at the end of the day, who controls our time? We do.
Exactly.
But we're so used to this model of business and things like that it's hard so then even for me, I had to stop and say, well, where does this come from? Oh, you work a 40-hour week, you do the, and I'm just like, no, I don't. I don't have to do that.
Right.
But it's constantly going back and revisiting it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like crazy.
And understanding where your patterns are and how you have continued to perpetuate the same behavior over and over again and how it's not helping you realize the changes that you want to make.
And changes are not hard.
They don't have to be.
But as soon as I sit there and say, it's never going to change, changes are hard, this is too difficult, I have now regurgitated what my subconscious has been taught for so long.
Yeah. You've reaffirmed it in your mind that, yes, absolutely, I cannot do this.
And in doing that, it so becomes this hamster on the wheel behavior, and it's exhausting.
Yeah.
It really is. So it's what are some of the things, starting a practice, even if it's just one thing we talked about, and doing that thing, maybe the 10-minute thing, maybe looking at your dreams, whatever it is, identify with the bodies, whatever. Just pick one.
Yeah.
And do it for a few weeks and see what happens.
Give it a try. Once we identify these factors, we can begin to create new tools for overcoming our limiting beliefs about ourselves. That is huge.
The thing is anything is possible and everything is possible.
Yeah.
But what happens is we get stuck in the limiting beliefs. Okay. And it was so funny. I was having a conversation with my client. He's on the autism spectrum. And he said, Miss Sharon, I go, yeah. He goes, guess what I prayed for? And I go, I don't know. What did you pray for? I never know what's going to come. He goes, I prayed for $100. And the grandma goes, oh, no, honey, we're not supposed to pray for money. Old limiting. I said, whoa. I said, Grandma. She goes, what? I said, why can't he pray for $100? She goes, well, we're just taught. And I said, exactly. But he has every right to pray for $100, $1,000, $1 million. That's a limiting thought.
Mm-hmm. And what a great way to keep people down.
Yes. So in saying that, it meant you don't deserve $100.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Look at this. And she goes, oh my God, I never thought it. She goes, honey, pray for all that you want. And she goes, you know what? I'm going to too.
Why not?
But those are the things we're talking about.
Yeah. So next episode, we're going to be looking at the process of moving past these old patterns through reprogramming and exactly how we execute that.
Yeah. So do you guys feel like you're in school? No.
Well, I think it tells us so much about ourselves, and it helps us to transcend where we are in this moment and realize we have the power to change and create new patterns.
And I think, the more we have conversations with people, whether it's here or just people in our daily life, and we share those ideas and those thoughts, I think that people start to say, anything is possible.
Yeah.
Anything really is. And as we've said, we're really working and have much gratitude for building this community and being able to share ideas and thoughts and everything with people. And that's why we are on all social medias.
Yes, we are. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and of course on YouTube, we are Worlds of Wonder by Spinning the Light.
And we would love for you to check that out. That's a lot of our travels and how we show up in the world, where the inner world meets the outer world.
And one of the other platforms that I'm on that I really love and that's about community is Noon Vibe. In fact, right before we did this, I do a talk every Saturday and Sunday morning.
10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time.
And you know what's cool is Noon Vibe it's a free app. And you can find some people talking on there who some of them do spiritual stuff. And there's just people who talk about every different topic.
Yes.
This morning, my topic was healing through tattoos.
Yeah. It's a really great resource. And of course, we always want to point you to the Spinning the Light podcast website. You can find all of our stuff there. And
spinningthelightpodcast.com.
spinningthelightpodcast.com. And if you subscribe, you'll receive an email whenever we post a new episode. We would love for you to engage with us on there. You can send questions. Go check it out.
And if you like what you're hearing with our stuff, tell your family, tell your friends. Share with them. Encourage them to follow us and become a part of this community because we're very excited about it. And I hope that you can tell that when we're talking and stuff, just what it means to us because we're on this journey with you. Yeah. We're all on this journey. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And let's make it the best we can. And let's be the best version we can. And, as always, spinning the light to us is finding our light and sharing it with others, lighting up this world, man.
The ripple effect that we can have.
Let's make it happen. That's what's really important. So once again, thank you so, so much. And we will be back next week with Spinning the Light. Bye.
Bye.